Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Workforce Ready with NSTAR. I am your host, Nnamdi Ihenacho. I am lead faculty and founder at NSTAR Technologies, and hope you can hear me okay. We've had a struggle the last couple of weeks to get this show started, right? I've had technical issues every week, and I really hope there are no issues going on right now. I can't see the chat, but drop something in the chats if you can see and hear me okay. I see people already live, so thank you all for being here. I'm excited to get this going. It's been in the works for a little bit, so I'm glad and I'm excited that we finally get to do this, and I know it's going to work this time around. I'm thrilled to get into today's conversation. Again, this is Workforce Ready with NSTAR. And our goal with this platform is every Saturday, every week, we will come on live. Myself or any of our faculty will come and will address very specific topics to get you workforce ready, right? Especially from the perspective of, careers in information technology. I am the database faculty for NSTAR Technology. So most of my conversations will be focused along those lines, but as well as just everything in tech. I bring with myself. I bring with me a boatload of experience. I've been in tech for over 2 decades now in different capacities, from server administration, networking, to database administration, now to mentoring. I've been a faculty, all of that. So it's a lot of experience, and not just from my own personal experience, but also supporting, mentees and students from the past. And so everything I'll be sharing will be based off of that perspective. All right. With that said, let's dive into today's topic. Again, thank you for being here and being with us for the last couple of weeks. All right. So today I'll be talking about discovering the power of a database administration career. All right, and again, my name is Nnamdi Ihenacho, and I'm excited to be talking to you. So, first of all, let's just dive into the role of a database administrator, the power of a database administration career. That's what we are talking about, right? The DBA role, or database administrator role, is one with incredible potential, right? There is a lot of demand for it, and yet it's not a trendy one, right? You're going to see more people talking about cybersecurity, data analysis, business analysis, all of that, but not as much database administration or database. Now, I kind of go with this personnel theory, and my theory is this: there are, for people looking to get into careers in information technology, you need to explore, consider certain things. One of the considerations you need to have is this something where the opportunities exist, right? Their tech is always evolving. It's always, so how do I know where to go, which one to stay on, and how do I ensure that I don't pick a career path today and then it's no longer trendy, or there are no more opportunities, right, in the near future. How do I make that call? There are things that I call the core pillars in tech. I'll not say STEM in tech, right? When it comes to career placement or career choices. The first one it's not going anywhere is infrastructure. So under infrastructure, we have server administration, cloud infrastructure, virtual machines, right? The infrastructure side of tech will never disappear. Right? It's always going to be, no matter how the technology evolves, it's never going to float in space, right? Yes, we have cloud, but cloud is just a collection of servers. The most basic way to explain it. Okay, so infrastructure will not go anywhere. Networking is not going to ever disappear or go out of vogue, right? Because all of this infrastructure needs to be connected, and it's the whole concept of all that we do is on networks, on the internet. We're doing different. So if you're looking to make a transition into a career in information technology, infrastructure, networking, those will always be in need, right? Careers within those realms. So those are what you should be thinking about. I'm not talking about like accessory careers now, and I hate to call them those, but they're accessory careers where it's just a tool or just something that completes. It's not the core, right? So get into and understand, like, you have to have your core area of strength where no matter how that field changes, you have the tools and the bandwidth to adjust, right? So infrastructure is one, networking is one. The other pillar in tech when it comes to career is data, right? And so again, all of the fact, this is where in that era where we're in that data era where everything is driven by data. AI is data driven. Most of the advancements we see today is all data driven. There is a premium on data today, and it's about how businesses will pay to procure, secure, and extract the value out of the information that they have access to. Right. So data is the other pillar when it comes to careers in information technology. And then the last one would be I call it the software, the program side, right? There's always going to be that interface. There's always going to be that something that ties it all together, right? So whether it's platforms, and so that's where you need to start getting a level of, you need to have a lane, right? So people do JavaScript and PHP, and like there's always going to be some concept of especially front end development to give an interface to make it easier to navigate. All right, so those are my core pillars in tech. Again, this is just my proprietary concept and thoughts. There might be thoughts, people that have similar thoughts that have different rankings or categories. That's mine. This is mine. All right, so those are the core pillars. So if you're going to choose a career, then you want to be in any of those lanes. Right. So I want to specifically talk about data and database administration. Right. Why that I consider that a core pillar when it comes to tech. Right. And that's why is database administration, to be particular, super important. And please stay tuned to the end, in case you're here because of the database administration piece of the conversation. Make sure you hang with me to the end, and I'll share with you how you can get started with us. Right. So who is a database administrator? In the most simplest of ways to explain this, a database administrator is a gatekeeper for business critical information, right? Businesses thrive on data. Data is the life. I just talked about it a little bit. Data is the lifeline of every business, especially from the from the information technology perspective, right? And so data is crucial. Data is critical. Database administrators are the ones who basically administer that data. They are the owners of the data. They are the managers of the data. They control who has access to the data, what level of access you have. They ensure that in the event of a disaster, a concept we call disaster recovery, in the event that something unexpected happens, we have our data secured and safe, right? And so we are able to spin it off somewhere else and still continue to serve clients, serve people, our end users. If people need a report, they need data they need to make intelligent decisions using data. We coordinate with the business to ensure they have access to the information they need, right? We ensure, all of the optimal access, optimal performance of the data. So when you go on a website, for example, and you want to search for something, pull some information, you want that process to be seamless. You want it to be efficient. How frustrating is it when you know the internet is good and network is great and your hardware is good, but you then do a search on a platform, on a website, and then you see that blue circle that frustrates the heck out of you, right? And it's not with the technology itself. And so that could be something behind the curtains around, say, indexes. We ensure things like that are not happening. We ensure data availability. So if I do a transaction in my bank with my bank, I want to, let's say somebody does a transfer to me, I want that to reflect instantly, right? If I do a transfer to somebody, I'm here in Atlanta, and I send some money to someone in Texas, I want to ensure that that gets to them. Now, money doesn't physically leave Atlanta to Texas, but records are updated behind the scenes. That is possible because of a database administrator. So that is a general scope. And I hope I'm painting a good picture for you on what the role of a database administrator looks like. The definition I have here is like is a librarian, or curator of a company's most valuable asset, which is the data. Data, again, is very crucial, right? We make sure data is organized, it's secure, it's easily accessible. And those are, when we start talking about a database administrator, these are some of our core functions. It's, managing data, securing data, optimizing databases. When we think about optimization, When you optimize something, that means you are making tweaks to that thing for optimal performance. Okay, I'm using optimal to explain optimization. For the best performance, right? To get the best out of that thing. So again, efficiently retrieving records, making sure when I do that Zelle transfer in real time, it's updated without delay, right? That's data. It's about security. If you use Bank of America, when you sign in, you see just your information. You don't see my information, even though both of us are bankers or have accounts with Bank of America. Database administrators are ensuring that funneling of who has access to what information. We can work for the same organizations, but in different roles. So your access is different from that of somebody else's, right? Because we put in place all of that infrastructure to ensure, right, that access is managed, properly. We talk about things around data integrity. The correct information is available. We have measures in place to ensure that the information you see when you check your bank account is accurate, right? You're not reading information in between transactions, right? Transaction meaning exchange. When you do a purchase on Amazon, and then that's a transaction, and so now the seller has records have to be updated. Imagine people purchasing thing that's something that's remaining one, right, in the inventory. How do we ensure that one person doesn't feel like they paid for something, but then suddenly there's no inventory? That's what we're talking about, data integrity, making sure it's correct information that we have access to. DBAs ensure that that is the case, right? Then we talk about troubleshooting in case of a failure, in case of a problem, right? The key aspect of our work is problem solving. It's find a problem. One of the core skills, and at some point I'll talk about it in one of these live streams, but one of the core things we have to be responsible or accountable for is ensuring that there's we can analyze and find the root cause of issues, right? And then I've talked about backups, making copies of your database, ensuring that just in case of a disaster or something goes wrong, you have a reliable copy to lean back on or to fall back to. All right. So I hope I've painted a good enough picture so you understand, or at least have a good context or concept of who and what a database administrator does. Now, why should you choose a career in database administration? Right. Remember, I talked about those core pillars for tech. Right. One, but I'll go into the more superficial, I would like all the reasons, which are important. A lot of times, the reasons why we make decisions are personal, right? I want a career that pays me well. So we want a career where I'm not going to be out of work, or even if for any reason I have to leave work, I know I can find work. And so database administrators are in high demand across all industries. This is super important. You don't only work in tech. Right, as a database administrator, you're not limited. Your options are not limited to only tech. You don't just have to work in tech. You don't just have to work in a particular industry. You can work in tech. You can work in finance. You can work in healthcare. You can work in manufacturing. I've had mentees and students who have gone through our programs, and they span across different industries. I've had students for AT&T, Bank of America, Cox Communications, in the auto industry, co-parts, right? So different industries. So there's a constant demand. I've had students who work outside hospital, right? And so there's all of this. The question is, do they use data? If the answer is yes, then yes, they need database administrators. Now, so not every company, small companies might not be able to afford to pay, and so they are managing their data at the lower scale. But you get to its particular size with your organization, and you need to efficiently manage information, and that's where you need to get a database administrator. So that drives up the demand. And this has been from the beginning of time. As long as the world is trending and trajectory is going, and there's going to be this constant dependence on data, then the role of a database administrator is never going to be obscure. People worry about, and I'm digressing a little bit, but there's this constant concern and worry if artificial intelligence is going to, cost people their jobs. Does it affect database administrators? And, I saw this and it's pretty neat. AI is a tool. AI is a tool. It helps you do your job. It will not take away your job. And I'm speaking specifically now to database administrators. Are there jobs that are going to be threatened or are threatened by artificial intelligence? Yes, they are. But not database administration. AI itself is powered by data. That means somebody needs to manage the data that AI needs to drive. Artificial intelligence is just you're synthesizing all of this information that is fed to this platform, and it's able to make decisions quickly, like faster than the person would. And so constant demand or high demand is one reason why you need to explore a career in database administration. Don't go with just the trends and how fancy it is. Do your research, right? And maybe that's what this should be called, is do your research. The next important reason why you should consider or explore a career in database administration is it pays well, right? I want to talk about the financial benefits. One of the reasons why we work, and I know people talk about follow your passion. If your passion doesn't pay you, it is going to be an expensive hobby. It's miserable, right? We work so we can, and again, this is not a promise of wealth. This is not, buy my course and you become, let me show you how I made $2 million in 2 days without. Nah, that's not it. Again, a lot of those things are fallacious and I don't believe in them. So this is a promise of a decent career, a stable, good paying, 90K to 120K, 130K or higher, depending on where you are, where you start from. And I want to give you realistic numbers. Do people make significantly more than the range I gave you? Yes. But for somebody who is not in the game yet, and you're, okay, where am I likely going to start? That's a realistic space to start thinking about salary. So if that's something you feel like makes sense for you, right? How does it feel like if I can invest some time to acquire a skill that will pay me 85 to 90K, depending on where you are, up to, and it goes up to, like, say, 120. And if you do hourly jobs, if you do hourly rates for contract roles, it will go higher because those don't come with benefits, right? So it pays well. It pays well. It's not going to pay you out of the gate 300K. No, it's not going to pay you that, but as a database administrator, you can easily be on that six-figure career path route. Stability is another thing. You want that job security. Again, you don't want your job to be going on an emotional trajectory, right? It's like, it's sad, it's happy, it's sad, it's happy, it's up and down, it's trendy today, it's not. And so today you work for 3 months and then you're on the bench for 3. That's something we don't get to experience as database administrators. There's that job stability that comes with being in this space. It doesn't just pay well. It also, there's opportunities. One, if for any reason you have to maybe get away from the workforce for a season and then come back to it's you have that, you want to know that I can always come back and get work even if life happens. The opportunities are always there. It pays well, and that stability is important, especially if you have a family. This is a space where you want to be in because it will give you that stable, future-proof. You're not worried about is people will never stop using data. So you will always, if you stay and on top of your skills, you will always have work. If you're not lazy in this lane, in this career path, and you're staying sharp and constantly, just upskilling and not necessarily going to learn another database platform, but staying on top of the one that's your core area. So if you're an SQL guy, if you're an Oracle guy, staying on top of your lane, you will always have opportunities. And then there's that work-life balance that comes with our work, right? Yes, there's a pushback against remote work in recent times. But even before the remote work thing was a trend, we always had that flexibility. The reason is our work, we don't necessarily, so as a database administrator, you come into work, you get a laptop. You use your laptop to connect to the database servers you support. Those database servers are in a data center somewhere. What that means is you are always, even when you're in the office, you're already working remotely because the servers and the infrastructure that you are supporting you're supporting them from a remote location. A lot of people have their data centers offsite, right? Depending on the structure of your environment meaning how servers are structured, depending on the infrastructure that you were supporting, you're not never, and I've been a DBA, I've been in the database administration, database engineering realm for the last since 2012. So this is 11. Am I doing the math? I'm messing up the math now. 2012, and this is 2025. So 13 years now. 13 years going on 14. And so I have never physically had to connect to a database server directly. What that means is we get to work. Our work, we're not bound. It's not location bound. And so DBAs have always had that flexibility, even before COVID and work from home was a trend, right? We've always had that flexibility to work. And then the other thing is we don't follow, for the most part, again, depend on the organization you work for. Our work hours are not always conventional, right? And so what that gives us is some flexibility depending on, again, there's other factors that will come to play here, who you work for, your manager, your supervisor, culture, all of that. But there's always that, all the roles that I've been part of, and, my students, people that I've mentored there's always that level of flexibility, that level of being able to work with you. And that's a very big deal for myself, right? It's being able to have that balance, where you can work, but you can also stay on top of other things that you need to take care of. All right. Let's talk about what does it look like day to day, for a DBA. What does that look like? Some of our day-to-day responsibilities, it ranges from a whole, and I'm trying to keep this, I'm trying not to go technical in my explanation. So one of the big things we do on a day-to-day is monitoring, right? You want to know the status of your database, right? Your database performance. Are there any issues? You want to catch those promptly, right? We have proactive monitoring. That is where we've placed measures, and then we have benchmarks, right? Performance benchmarks. So if certain benchmarks are exceeded, or, we get notified and we go proactively respond, where we don't wait for a failure to occur. We are taking actions, just like you have the oil change 3,000 miles, 5,000 miles oil change marker, right? Once that indicator comes, you don't wait for your car to run out of oil before you go do something about it. You refill, you go do an oil change at a certain time. Proactive maintenance, that's part of monitoring. So you're watching your oil levels and making sure you are taking action promptly before you, again, if you run out of, if your engine oil dries up, your engine will knock, and now it's a bigger issue and more expensive. It's easier to pay $90 for an oil change than to pay $2,000 or $3,000 depending on a vehicle for a new engine, right? Same deal. You don't want to run out of space, and so it's easier to capture it when it's at 80% and fix the space issue than when it runs out of space and your database becomes corrupt because it can't grow. And now you have to fix a corrupt database, or a database that goes into suspect mode. I went a bit technical there, but you get the gist. Same explanation, just don't let. So proactive monitoring. We need to always be able to answer the question, what's happening? What happened? And in the case I described, what will happen based on trend analysis, looking at the trends and being able to predict how our database will behave. Another responsibility of a database administrator is security. Right? Who has access to what? This is a super important aspect of our job, is managing access. In fact, some people, I've not met anybody except for people who maybe go into contract roles where they're just building infrastructure, right? People who are part of daily operations always get to do things around security. It's one of those constants, granting access, managing access, levels of access, all of that. So security is a big conversation, a big part of our work, managing access, user access, all of that. Another responsibility that and these are things you can talk about, you can start talking about even as you begin to reframe your mindset, and explore a new career in data. Another responsibility of database administrators is we get to work with development teams, right, to develop and design database solutions. So whether it's a platform, we become the subject matter experts on that, where we we are given knowledge on the database side. This is how the database infrastructure should look like. These are the number of servers we need. This is how the tables, we define, work with them to define the relationships. This is how the application will talk and access the data. These are the versions. This, we do the analysis on the supports, the kind of versions that we support, what features and functionalities that we need to have the platform, our database platforms use. So that's, working with design teams, working with other teams to really infrastructure, developments, applications, just working with them to build, database solutions. Another one, I talked about troubleshooting. So responding to and resolving database related issues. That's a key part of our day-to-day. In fact, most database administrators will fall under the production support bucket. What that means is if it's broken, we find out why, we fix it, do some documentation, put measures in place to ensure it doesn't happen again where possible. That's what good DBAs do. Is you don't just fix it, you don't just band-aid fix and then move on. Why? Root cause analysis. Why did it happen? Can we find a permanent solution to this? Can we document this so that if it happens again, we're not doing the research from scratch? Especially if you're not there and you work in a team, somebody else might need to check and say, what did you do when this happened? So resolving data related issues, responding to resolving. So that involves troubleshooting, analysis, and fixing issues, and I'll add documenting the solutions properly. Right, so that's some of the day-to-day tasks of a DBA. Again, it's a large scope, it's a larger scope, but I'm trying to define it in context that gives you something to run with. Again, please, if you have any questions, feel free to drop questions in the chat. We'll definitely be sure to get back to it and answer these questions. Now, what are some skills that you need? Again, I'm talking about today the power of a career in database administration, the power of a DBA career. There's certain skills you need. Like every job, you need certain skills to do the job well. We have the technical skills and we have non-technical skills, right? So on the technical skill side, you need to be proficient in one of the database management technologies, right? So you can't just, you have to be good at, nobody's going to pay you 90K, 100K, 120K. If you are not proficient in a particular tool, you're going to be hired in a lane. So you're going to be a SQL Server database administrator. You're going to be an Oracle DBA. You're going to be a MySQL DBA. There's always going to be that call. Can you do multiple platforms? Yes. Can you have knowledge of multiple platforms? Absolutely. In fact, it is almost always recommended or required, especially if you start getting into that engineering, being part of engineering. Your core can be SQL. Right, most companies will have a primary product that they support or they use, but then there might be, proprietary software or things that need for you to know some SSRS or know some Oracle. You might have one rogue server that's been there for a while that requires something else. Maybe if they want to bring some more of the reporting and business intelligence in house, you might need to go know some Snowflake. So that's something you have to be proficient in a core technology. Yes, there might be add-on technologies that you also need to get familiar with and get some versatility on. But in the end, you need to have a level of proficiency in your core area of expertise. And then on demand, based on what your job demands of you, you might need to acquire some skills outside of your core area. But you need to be like, say, hey, I'm primarily a SQL Server DBA. I'm primarily an Oracle guy. All right, that's the first thing. You need to be proficient in the skills. Then we now start, after you have the technical proficiency, the rest of the skills you require are non-technical, right? So problem solving and analytical skills. We have to be able to look at problems and issues from more than one perspective. One of the mindsets you cannot have is that mindset of this is how we do it or this is how it's done. No, that will limit you as a database administrator. You have to be willing to explore, is there a way this can be done better? The technology is evolving. Why is it evolving? That's because people at Microsoft SQL headquarters are looking at how can we get this experience. They're taking feedback from users and they are working to constantly improve the product. So you as an end user, you that is supporting an infrastructure using SQL Server, and I'm using that for example, also have to be open to looking beyond this is how it's done and exploring, is there a way it can be done better? Right. So analytical skills, problem solving skills, being able to really explore and figure out and get to the root cause of issues, right? You can't be an impatient person as a DBA. You want to, it's not about just doing the thing. It's about making sure you are, because one mistake, our mistakes are costly, right? As a database administrator, your mistakes can cost the company serious revenue. And so you don't want to be you don't want to be responsible for revenue, any revenue impacts. I have a colleague that calls that resume generation activities. If you do something that impacts revenue, then you need a resume because you'll be looking for a new job. The other non-technical skill I have here is attention to detail. So just like analytical skills, again, you can't be rushing to do things. And I learned this from my manager. Like, it's not just about doing it. It's about taking the time to do it well. Again, data is sensitive. Data is a lifeline for most organizations. If that's compromised, that's contracts, that's HIPAA, that's there's a lot of critical components to data. Data is so critical that we can't be careless with it. Right, it's better to confirm and recheck and ask questions, and even if you fall behind, again, you can't be always falling behind. There's expectations. That's why I have service level agreements. But it is better to deliver late than to make a data mistake. Right, so attention to detail is important. Another one is communication and teamwork, and I'm talking about written communication, verbal communication. Sometimes you might have to express technical concepts in meetings to non-technical people. You might be giving updates. In some cases, you might be the one driving a project, and so you're facilitating calls and meetings, right? You get to put on that project management and leadership hat. And so that teamwork and communication is very powerful as part of the skills that we need. If you're a DB who can do presentations, who's efficient with communication, it will do well for you. And that sets you up for being able to get into leadership and management, right? Teamwork is super important. We never really work in silos, right? Yes, when we do support, support things, yes, but when we build, you're likely coordinating or working with the application people. You're working with infrastructure, working with networking. You're working with projects and project management and, all of those guys, right? So it's never really, it's never just DBAs when it comes to building projects. And so being able to work with people from different teams, you're working with people from the business. That means you have to be able to come to their level and speak at a realm where they can understand what in the world you're saying, right? So that's communication and teamwork is a critical aspect of our day-to-day job as database administrators. Now, I'll quickly talk about how does NSTAR Technologies prepare you for this career, right? One, we launched our certificate program of database administration, several years back. That was our flagship flagship program. And we've had a lot of success. We've helped over 300 people get into database DBA careers. And so it's done well. And the reason why we've had, success is our approach, right? We have this, it's live classes and live cohorts, and it's tailored for our student success. It's built for the person who is coming from I've never done this before. As long as you have that proficiency with your computer, I don't need you to be able to code or do anything fancy. Just know how to use your computer. If you can watch Netflix, if you can do basic installations on your Windows, if you can uninstall applications, create folders, that's the technical skill requirements that you need to take the class. But the program is built to ensure that no matter the level where you are in tech, it's something you can absorb and go on and be successful. I was talking to my students got a job this year, and she was so hyped. Like, everything you said is what you asked me. That's how we prepare you. That's what I enjoy hearing. The classes are tailored for your success. Everyone teaching, I still teach the database program, but anybody else who will step in at some point for me is going to be somebody who does this, right? That's a written requirement for us at NSTAR Technologies. Is we want to make sure that anybody coming to teach is teaching what they've done. Can people with just the knowledge teach? Yes, right? But there are stories you cannot tell if you haven't done it. You can't share about your experiences. There are certain things that will make sense for you to demo them with case studies. And case studies are not made up. When it comes to this lane, you want to the impactful case studies are the ones you've done or you've gone through yourself. And so we make sure that our instructors are experts in their realm, in their area. And then we provide you that personalized mentorship and support. So you're never by yourself through the program. We are working with you, not just during the live classes. You're getting constant check-ins and how are things going. And if you have any questions, we make an abundance of platforms available to you to ask questions and receive support. Even beyond the class, even beyond the program, we have the option where you can be a part of our ongoing support, where you can still come in and get questions answered. And so we never leave our. So our goal is for you to be able to go from, students to from classroom to the workforce, and that transition is minimal. We focus a lot on job readiness, right? We do prepare you to write the exams and get certified, but beyond that, we know that you're not impressing anybody. You're not impressing your interviewers with your certifications. You're not impressing most people who are. You might impress people who are not in the game with your papers, your paperwork, your credentials. I've gone through several interviews. As a candidate and as a panelist interviewing people. Certification has never been a criteria. It has never been a consideration in our prep to talk to somebody we interviewed, right? It's it's not a requirement. Certifications are important, but I put certification in that bucket of continuous improvement. And so you need to be constantly getting certified and recertified to stay on top of the trends within your technology, right? Because it's always evolving. That's why the certifications have different variations, because each one updates with whatever new things have been introduced in that tech. And so certifications help you stay on top of the technology. It helps you stay on top of the trends. It helps you stay on top of what is, what's happening within the industry. And it's not for the person who is trying to break in. Is it good to have? Yes. You prepare, you write the exam, you pass, it's good. But it's not a proof of, it doesn't prove anything. And again, from experience, it has never been a factor, not in making a hiring decision, not even in choosing who we interview, right? So sets are good. So our focus is on, can you do the job? Because that is what your interview should be about. It'll be about you're given a scenario and then this happens. How would you address it? How would you resolve this? How do you get to the root cause? Assuming this was not the case and now you're left with these options, what would you do? Most interviews are layered to tell me what you would do in this scenario. People will ask you questions around what is going on within in their own environment, right? And so it is about prepping you for the workforce. It's about getting you ready to have those conversations with these guys who are going to be your interviewers, right? Our goal is to prepare you. It's workforce ready. That's our whole mantra. It's getting you workforce ready, getting you ready for the place of work. And so that's the gist with our approach. That's our approach. We work with you, and so we have a promotion going on. If you want to be a part of it, please, in the description, I'm sure there's some information about how to get started with our programs. Book a call, talk to somebody. That's not necessarily what I'm doing today. It's to give you context into the role of a database administrator. All right, again, I can see the chats. We will keep evolving our technology. I'd love to get real life questions and interact with people back and forth, as we continue this. But please make sure you forward this video along. If you were just joining, subscribe to the channel and share this with somebody who we feel like will find value, with the information that I've shared today. And if there are specific things that you want me to talk about, I am glad to make a video. I'm trying to get more. We're trying to be consistent with putting out relevant content. So if there's things you want to hear about or learn about, comment section, drop questions. I will be glad to respond to these questions. All right. Again, get on the description for this video. We're going to drop a link to book a call, to connect with us, to ask questions. You see our email. Go ahead and book a call, and I will be glad to chat with you, answer your questions, and get you started, on this career path. We look forward to you being our next success story. All right. Thank you again for hanging out with me. It's Saturday afternoon. I don't know when you'll be out watching this, but whatever time you're watching, God bless you. Thankful for your time. And I will see you in the next video.